All right, folks. Welcome back to the Night's Watch. I am Jacob.
I'm Alex.
And Alex, the bird is no longer free. One might say that I know why the caged bird sings. Yeah. So as we're recording this, it is after both USA-Canada games. We recorded last before the first one.
Yep.
We were really hyped, and sure enough, that first one, goddamn,
lived up to the hype.
It did.
It was an insane game. It was a close game. You know, it said 3-1, but it was in actuality 2-1. The game was insane. You know, 3 fights in the first 10 seconds. It was electric.
We were at the local brew pub, and
everybody was having a great time.
Yeah, the place was crowded. Everyone was watching. We were all giggling like schoolgirls when those fights happened.
Yep.
Something I never thought I would ever say was I yelled out, "Kick his ass, Maddie!"
Yeah, yeah.
That really kind of really kind of sums up the novelty, or I got not even the novelty, the
buy-in of this whole tournament. Like, I never thought I'd be cheering for either Kachuk brother.
Yeah,
but good lord, was I cheering? I was cheering for fucking Jack Hughes and I was in fucking Brock Faber and. I was cheering for these guys and Connor Hellebuck. I'm like, where am I? What am I doing?
Well, it's funny because that the first goal against Sweden that Hellebuck gave up, I was like, oh, that's leaky. That's playoff Hellebuck right there.
Oh, you mean Finland?
Finland, yeah.
Yeah, not Hakanpää because he's got no knees. Jokiharju.
But after that, man, Hellebuck was Hellebuck, and I remember we both said like, oh, our only worry is, did this unlock a new version
in his brain?
Did this unlock a new playoff version of Hellebuck?
Did this tournament like unlock that fucking like that other half of his brain?
Where he's like, wait, I can play the way that I play in the regular season. I can play like that in a big elimination.
It might. I mean, that's a good point. It might push a lot of these guys that, you know. I obviously we're skipping over the last game, right? Canada won.
We're not skipping over it. I think we're just working our way towards it in
an organic way.
Thank you.
But again,
another fucking Jacobism.
Hey, nothing's worse than Ivan Bubashev. But no, like, you know, obviously going to the game final, it felt less fun in that it felt like more like I was watching the Golden Knights play a Game 7 of the playoffs, right?
We were like, oh shit, we're invested. We're emotionally invested now.
Oh yeah, I was.
I think we were the whole time, but like it was a new level where I was like, oh, this is like all I'm thinking about for like the 2 or 3 days leading up. Like even during the Sweden game, I was like, I don't give a fuck about this game.
I don't.
Like,
we lost the game. I was like, I don't give a shit. They don't give a shit either.
Yeah, my only concern in that game was who's healthy. Who's healthy?
Like Saturday, we're all
the big ones ones coming up.
Saturday,
who's healthy?
Saturday, we're all giddy and ready to have fun, right? Because it's like, oh, it's round robin. But
and we were giddy and we did have fun. That was a great magical game.
Great game, and then
no matter how this whole thing ended, nothing will take away how awesome that was.
Like you said, Thursday, like those 2 days leading up to it after the Sweden game, I'm just like, oh god, I'm like, here we go. It's more serious than you thought. And then that day, I felt like anxious, even though like I'm at work just thinking about a hockey game that really, not really, it completely doesn't matter. Like.
Well, that's the thing with the whole Four Nations. We say it doesn't matter because, like...
It matters to these guys. Like,
nothing in this world, Alex, matters unless the people involved decides that it matters. And every fucking hockey fan on the planet decided that this mattered.
I'm so very happy that everybody tuned in, that every game that was played... set new viewership records. The final with U.S. and Canada was like what 11 million people.
It was insane.
Like that?
It was the most viewed hockey game in America, like ever. I think.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
and you're telling me that this wasn't a good thing for the game or didn't do anything to grow the game? I'm like, this is quite literally what you want. And then, next year there's gonna be a little all-star game going in the Olympics. You don't think people are going to be getting up at 10 a.m. to watch
the Olympics?
The Olympics? I'm sure as shit going to be like.
When we were watching at the old brew pub, I made that joke. I'm like, well, what's the time difference between here and Milan? Am I going to have to take the day off work? And hey boys, open at the bar at 9 a.m. so I can watch this game.
Oh yeah, like once the pool play is over and you go to like the semifinals or whatever to I'm not going to be out. I'm not working. Like if USA is playing in a semifinal and then a final, I'm not working.
Yeah.
I'm not paying attention. Like, in fact, you know what?
I will look in the eye. I'm like, oh, so you hate America? Is that what you're saying?
And then the game, go to the game. It literally felt like a Stanley Cup Game 7.
It did.
How high level things were being played.
I mean, put it to you this way: I was like texting people in my family that don't watch. They'll watch Golden Knights games if they can sense that it's important. You know,
watch this game.
Casuals. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah.
You know, they were casuals, but you know, I texted everyone like, "Hey guys, tonight 5 p.m. Here's where you can watch it: Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, fucking ESPN cable." You know, I was spreading the word.
Oh yeah.
Anyone that would talk to me, like,
watch this shit.
When I left my office, usually you leave at a casual pace. Like, oh, let me pack up and let's turn off the lights. Nah, I turned to my coworker. I'm like, hey, I have to go like right now.
Oh yeah, we were.
I have to watch this game.
We were meeting our CEO during the week, and like that morning, like we're getting ready to go meet him in the morning at like 9 or something, and my wife, we work together, but my wife Victoria goes, yeah, then this is gonna happen, and then we're gonna meet this person, and then at the end of the day they want to meet like at 4, and I look her in the eye, I'm like, I need to leave this house no later than 4:30. I will not stay any longer. I'm leaving at 4:30.
I will not be meeting you for that.
And
dinner.
she goes, "Oh, your hockey game can wait." And I looked at her and I don't get like a anger look very often. I think you've seen it only a couple times, and you've been like, "Oh shit." And I looked at her. I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "Okay, never mind."
Yeah, I think we're both low key dudes. So when one gets angry, we're just like, "Oh."
Yeah. I was
this matters to him.
I am checked out by 4:30 on that day. I will not, I'm focused on this game, and that's like shit at a Game 7, like Golden Knights, playoff games, right?
Well, I'll never forget Game 5 of the Cup final. I literally thought my grandma was like dying, and I rushed to her house, and then one of my uncles was there, and he was like, "Go," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, I know this is important to you. Just go. And I was like, okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. She didn't die. She's still alive to this day.
Still alive.
Actually,
she lived to see a Golden Knights.
Oh, she does not give a single fuck. She does not care at all. She's a diehard Lakers fan, though.
Well, then Lakers are not going to win a championship. Well, they won in COVID, but not going to win another one anytime soon. So
no, but anyways, point being, hockey is important, and this game, I'm trying to think. I'm like, I think of all my hockey experiences, this is really right up there.
Yeah, like I would say,
even though we fucking lost,
I would say this experience is third. Well, no, I'd say
to me it's
second.
Cup is obviously one.
Yeah, Cup is one.
The original. The year 1 Cup run is up there, but even then, like,
I wasn't as bought in that year.
Exactly. I wasn't as invested. I was just like, oh wow, this is awesome.
Yeah,
I was the stereotypical bandwagon. I was like, oh cool, yeah, I'll watch.
And then right after that,
really go Vegas.
I really bought in and really got into it. And
to me, the other big one is the Colorado series.
But that's us speaking from our perspective as like a Golden Knights fan. As an overall hockey fan, like this is like up there, right? Like, it's one or two. Like
Well, let's be real here. Let's talk about it. Fucking, this wasn't just like a hockey thing. Like this was a cultural thing.
Yeah, it bled into the NBA. It bled into.
It had Kevin Durant fucking crashing out on Twitter trying to answer fans about why the NBA isn't this good.
It bled in. It was front and center on fucking news. Like every major news site had front and center.
I know we don't like to talk about politics in here, but it's all the Trump bullshit.
It was driven by politics. Like of course it was.
The whole they're booing our anthem. I fucking wonder why.
I wonder why. It's I listened to other podcasts and other points like, well, you don't boo it because of what it stands for. They're not booing that. They're not booing that at all. What they're booing is a guy saying that he wants to make them the 51st state.
He's going to annex them,
and
calling their prime minister fucking governor.
Yeah, that's what that means.
Yeah,
it's not that I've met Canadian people. I've met plenty of Canadian people. They're very similar to Americans. We respect each other.
Everyone has pride in their country.
Yeah,
everyone,
and that's not a bad thing. It's the point where it's I'm sure we're very clear on what side of the stage we stand on. It's right wing troll is not a fucking personality.
It's not a personality, and as we learned in the finals game, it sure as shit is not a team identity.
No, it's not.
That will get anything done.
And then that again, you have Canadian fans going, "Oh well, we beat you guys. Look, it's beating back the Trump thing." I'm like, if you guys don't realize most of the guys on your team have a similar way of thinking.
Oh yeah, well,
you're fucking insane.
So as I was rushing to get to the brewery to watch the game with you, and I was listening to ESPN radio, and I heard that awful rendition of "Oh Canada," and to be frank, I was not a fan of the Star Spangled Banner either.
No, so
at least they brought in a band.
But you didn't. You weren't there, so they were playing it, and she was good. She's got an operatic voice, clearly, whatever. But I think they were dragging it out or going too slow, and she was used to going to like her certain speed of singing it, and it would cut to her, and the conductor's going, and he's slowing down, and she's looking at him, and she's like making these faces of like, "What the fuck are you like? What are you doing? Like, why are you changing this right now? Like, we didn't practice this."
Looking at her band director, like, "You're dragging, you're dragging."
Like it was like the guy's changing it on cue, and she like as a singer she can't match it because she's practiced a certain way so many times, and that brings me also back to the anthems of like wasn't the only good anthem the one sung in the U.S. Canada round robin game that the Canadian Marine. That song?
That one, I think that one was good. But even then, I think I remember looking at you and being like, "Hey, man, does this not make you so grateful for Carnell and Lene?"
Literally, that's something. Before you got there to the game on Thursday, I was talking with Tyler, and I was like, I brought that up. I'm like, don't you guys feel so good that we're spoiled with, Golden Pipes and Lene Myers? Just how good,
fantastic,
how
singers.
Good they are. And like you don't have issues, you don't have fucking weird shit, like you don't have opera singers like this. They're just legit just good.
But to get back to the root of it, all these people are like, well, we didn't boo their anthem because we're so much better. I'm like, yeah, no shit, maybe it's like our country isn't at threat of being fucking swallowed up by another bigger country. Maybe. Call me crazy, but regardless of all that, it was clear that this final game had huge political and cultural overtones.
Yeah.
Like this is what you want from an international game, right? Like this isn't two hockey teams playing against each other. This is two countries fighting each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll be frank, seeing people on the USA side like, "Oh, well, we're 51st state. I don't fuck with that.
No.
I don't fuck with that. And if you're listening to this and you do fuck with that, whatever. I'm not going to, I don't know, fucking text me if you want to fucking argue, I guess. There was a contingency at our usual viewing place where it seemed like they were cheering for Canada. I'm like, I don't think you're Canadian. I think you're American, and I think they were just cheering against the bullshit. I will not do that either.
No.
I will not cheer for Team USA, if that makes sense. Like, I am cheering for Team USA.
Yeah, I'm cheering for the team.
I was so emotionally invested in that game that when we lost, it ruined my night and it ruined my next day. Today is Saturday, and I'm only just now starting to get over it a little bit.
Yeah, you can cheer for the players and for the team, but not for the never in my life in cheering for any Team USA sports did I ever think I'm cheering for the president. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, even if I was
because because that's either medieval king or fucking fascist dictator bullshit. Like,
yeah, like
I'm not cheering for a man.
Yeah,
I'm not cheering for a person. I'm cheering for the fucking country.
Like watching
for you and for me and for my Republican neighbor that I hate and for the other Democrat that
because
I'm cheering for all of us. Because guess what? Guess what, motherfuckers? We are all American.
Yeah, and deep down you can emotionally connect on that level of I'm cheering for Team USA, this sport. Like, watching like World Cup soccer. Like I was cheering for Team USA. I wasn't cheering for Barack Obama or Joe Biden at the time or Donald Trump at the time. I'm not cheering for the president because that's just a figurehead of the laws of the land. But that also goes to show like the divide between the viewer and the player, right? Hey, this is getting like very deep into culture of hockey, but we're
do
here.
It. We're a few beers deep. It's
so
fine.
like hockey as a whole is easily miles ahead of every other sport. The most expensive game to get into as a youth, as a child, right?
You want to be a goalie? That'll be $15,000.
Yeah, like for baseball, go down to the fucking Walmart or the local fucking sports store. Go buy a $30
bat and a glove,
$30 bat, $10 glove, some shoes. You're in. Get some baseball pants that cost some cheap ass pants. You're in. Football, they'll give you the pads. You go buy the cleats and they give you the ball.
Yeah. Basketball, just get a fucking ball
and some shoes. Soccer, ball and some shoes.
Get a ball. You and your neighborhood friends can split the ball 7 ways and fucking get a ball.
Hockey, you have to buy the pads. The whole, if you're a
stick, the skates,
the skater, it's just the skater, helmet, shoulder pads, knee guards, skates, socks,
tape, hockey pants,
stick, undershirts, gloves, and then on top of that is your
ice time.
Ice time. You may have to pay for that. Is your kid good enough to get a trainer? You're paying for the trainer. You're paying for camps. You're paying
skating coach, shot coach.
You're paying dropping fees at local games.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, God forbid your kid's a fucking goaltender, because then you're at markups of 300%. Now you have to have your goalie pads,
catcher, blocker,
goalie stick, goalie mask.
Yeah.
Like different skates for a goaltender. Like it all adds up. It's so expensive to get in to get into hockey,
especially goaltending, but hockey and
get into hockey as a young person. Do I love the game of hockey? Yes, but is it cost prohibitive to 90% of any given nation? Yes.
And does that
like
seem to attract a certain type of person who is frankly fucking disconnected from the reality?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But
of 99% of fucking Americans.
Yeah. Look at some of these stories that are more majority. You say it happens in other sports. Like let's look at it this way. In baseball, there is a player. I think it was Wander Franco. It could have been somebody else. It was a big story. He essentially had groomed this young child to a point where she became his child bride, and he basically bought her from the mom. It was a whole fucked up situation. He's from a South American country, a completely just terrible, messed up situation. And he did this basically because he had money, money and power and whatever. But and there's other stories and other things that happens. I'm not discounting those either. But if you look at it, there's a larger player pool of baseball, basketball, football. So that shit happens. I'm not saying that terrible things happen in other sports. But by and large, hockey has a smaller player pool.
Mm-hmm. But
there's more significant damaging stories and damaging things in hockey that you hear about that are more severe.
This whole hockey fucking Canada
just debacle.
Shit,
it's just go ongoing. You have the World Juniors, the Blackhawks situation. You have multiple stories across all of Hockey Canada and a little bit in the States too. Just
believe it or not, this little fucking rich shithead that grew up as a jock, he also has trouble with how he treats the ladies.
Yeah.
Who could have thought?
And it's
Evander Kane was at the inauguration, by the way.
That's right. I forgot about
along with old Wayno.
God, but that's what I mean. It's whatever with the whole booing the anthems. We're past that. Shit's gonna keep happening. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Whatever. Who cares? Singing in the national anthems, this whole fucking overtly patriotic bullshit didn't happen until fucking the Reagan era, anyways. I don't care. I do not care either way. Play it, don't. I don't give a shit. Boo it, whatever you want to do. Do what you want. I don't care. It's only something in the last 40 goddamn years.
You know what's really funny is there's all there's been these quotes even before the Four Nations.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what do you make of the booing? Like our old homeboy Marshall, he said, like, well, I think the anthems are for the veterans, so I don't like it. I'm like, okay, that's a
valid point. That's a
valid,
extremely valid point. I respect you if you decided, hey, I 18, I'm gonna go fucking fight for the country and go.
This is what it means to me.
This is what it means to me. Yes, I don't,
and I agree. Yeah,
I don't discount that.
I'll respect that. To bring this all back to hockey. I truly believe that the main reason we lost that game, which meant so much to me as a poor fucking liberal faggot, not like you big boys. For some reason, I still cared about this game and cared about my country. The reason that we lost at the end of the day was because the American team's identity was right-wing troll.
Yeah, it was
51st state bullshit,
arrogance.
There was a couple of reports like, oh yeah, Trump riled up the locker room with 51st state comments. I'm like, oh yeah, so fucking funny. Well, meanwhile, the Canadian identity was, let's ignore our differences and come together because we're fucking Canadian and we're not gonna take this. They had an actual true national identity that you need for situations like this.
Yeah, I mean, because there's in the U.S. room, there are players in that room that are just like, yeah, I don't care for that. But even there's interviews after, like, and it's insane to me, one of them, the youngest player on the team, Brock Faber, had a very good interview after the game was lost, and he was like, what it matters is, like, we didn't play our game, we didn't come together as a team. We didn't, finish it off. This, perfect quote. Dylan Larkin, right after, same shit. Perfect quote. There's guys in that team that care more. That's what I'm saying. It's like you have this one side going, oh well, we don't like politics in hockey, but at the same time they'll say, why don't they just play? Why don't they shut up and play the game? Why don't they shut up and dribble?
Yeah, I hate that. So
you can't have it both ways.
Not even with sports, just like, well, I don't want to talk about, guess what, fuckers? And this is why I'm like being so, like I said, I didn't plan to have this talk about this. But politics, whether you like it or not, politics are every aspect of your life. Politics affect your health care. Politics affect the water that comes out of your fucking tap when you turn the switch on. Politics affect the gasoline. Politics affect your food, your rights. Every aspect of your life is influenced by politics. So all these fucking children, we're not really into politics. Well, what are you into? Fucking Harry Potter, Transformers, fucking Marvel?
Yeah.
Maybe you should get into it because you're a fucking adult.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why you can't have it both ways. And, it's especially when it comes to country on country like events like this.
Exactly.
Guess what, motherfuckers? There's going to be a political undertone.
This is political by its nature.
Yeah.
This is Team USA versus Team Canada. That is political by its nature.
Yeah. And it's same thing with Team USA versus Team Mexico in any sport. And some people will go like, well, when there's other countries versus country, it's not that political. I'm like, but there's still a deep rivalry. Like, people like to say that Sweden and Finland have a good relationship. Maybe politically, but then you see the players go, yeah, I don't have anything nice to say about the other team right now.
As much as I hate Patrick Laine, how good was that quote? It feels like we're the big brother now.
Yeah.
After, who was it, Hedman? That's like, oh, they're kind of like our little brother. Yeah, well, you lost, motherfucker. And
yeah.
Yeah.
That maybe not be overtly political, but just because the Finnish, was it Prime Minister? I don't know what the Finnish leader is, but they're not saying shit like that.
It is political.
It is.
Everything is political. Like, people have this distorted meaning of what the word political means.
It is. Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's like you can't just mentally check out from a part of an event just because, like, oh no, I only care about the game. I'm like, well, the game is also riddled with political overtones and meaning, and
yeah,
you also have to think about
any
what all this
international
matters.
competition is, because even like, you know, I don't know if people are still listening to this or there's a bunch of fucking liberal fucking cucks. Well, guess what? Even on our side, I still feel nervous saying this shit, because if I say like, oh yeah, I was supporting Team USA wholeheartedly, they'll be like, what? Are you supporting Trump? I'm like, no, because you do not get to decide what is and what is not American.
Yeah.
And because these political overtones affect both sides deeply in a nuanced way, you know, like
if you can't personally divide what it means, then you don't understand what it means to be a person of that country, right? Like
yeah.
if you can't personally go, if you can't say, oh, Jacob is supporting Team USA in hockey, but he's supporting Team USA in hockey because, one, he likes hockey and he likes Team USA sports, and, you know, he's proud to be a member of this country, but he also doesn't care for the current political climate, and you can't logically separate that, then you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'll use that as an opportunity to say, like, yes, I was supporting Team USA. I'm an American. I'm a proud American. I vote. I pay my taxes.
Yeah.
I fucking contribute to the community. And guess what? I still hate all that fucking 51 first state bullshit.
I was extremely, extremely satisfied with this tournament. Had a ton of fun.
Yeah. Let's just... 37-minute mark. Let's casually get this back to our impressions overall. The Four Nations was fucking genius.
Well executed.
I think we were both excited from day one. We did a Four Nations preview episode before the season started.
Yeah, and then we did a second one too. With,
yeah, because we were just fucking jazzed.
Yeah, we did two. We did one by ourselves and then one with Tyler. And Tyler, what did we do? Was that a review or is that a looking at the teams that were released?
I don't fucking know.
I don't remember, but yeah, but no, we were super excited, and you know, of course, it was a 2.5 week tournament, but it was so much fun. It was Finland, even the Finland-Sweden game I watched. So I'm like,
yeah,
I watched every game.
I watched every single game.
Every game was so much fun. All the lead up, everything that came up to it. The crowd at the Bell Center was insane. The crowd at TD Garden was insane.
Can I say one thing is that this is a purely hockey perspective. My biggest pet peeve coming into this was all these hockey writers and podcasters and analysts and anchors and whatever. People are like, well, this is just a phony tournament, right? Well, it's just a made-up tournament. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It's stupid. It's bullshit. This is a cash grab by the league. It doesn't mean anything. You know, I mean, Russia's not there. How can you even call this best on best? It means nothing. It's stupid. It's bullshit. It's phony. It's dumb. Who cares? It's so cringeworthy that we're even talking about. I truly hope every single one of those fuckers watched
every single game.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the USA lost. I hope they all watched every single game. I hope again. USA lost the final. It was in overtime.
It was in overtime.
Like what? 10 minutes in? 10
Yeah.
minutes? 10 minutes in, everybody was tired as shit. Bad coverage. McDavid got a great shot, slipped into the slot. Nobody was covering him. They should have been plenty of things that happened. But it went to overtime in a final against.
I mean,
this is everything you could ask for as a hockey fan.
Yes.
Overtime in a final. All the best hockey players in the fucking world in North.
The fact that, like I said earlier, I had casuals, you know, I mean, one, I was kind of forcing it down their throat, but I had people asking me about it, like, oh, what's going on? What's this tournament?
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of, you know, football and NBA personalities online sharing, like, oh my God, fucking, I think it's because it was during the same weekend as the
NBA All-Star. The shit NBA All-Star game where they brought up a kid
dunk over a car.
Yeah, a guy that plays in literally. He's not good enough to actually play in the NBA. He plays in the G League. They brought him up just for the dunk. They brought him in just for the dunk contest so he can win. He can leave. He can fuck off back to fucking
the G League.
He think he plays for Orlando, so he probably plays in some fucking dog shit town in Florida, fucking playing in Pensacola or some bullshit like that. Like, and it's just so boring. You watch the replays from the NBA All-Star game, like, this sucks, asshole.
Yeah,
like,
and to be fair, the NHL All-Star game also usually sucks. To me, my caveat is if you're there in person, because
it's fun.
When we went, we had fun. But as a TV product,
like,
it's probably not.
Do you remember? We were there, sat down. I think it was in between the actual like All-Star games, like the team games. They're like, all right, here we're gonna bring out Machine Gun Kelly, and you and I both go, oh, we're gonna go get some beers.
All right, we're going up. Who wants a beer? You want a beer? All right, we're going up.
We both left.
We'll be right back.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. At least the NHL has tried to do something different, right?
Yeah, and I mean the All-Star game isn't going away, and I mainly bring that up because I'm like, I don't want to be like too like, oh well, fuck you, because the NBA All-Star game wasn't as good as the Four Nations. I'm like, well, that's almost like a faulty premise, because how could any All-Star game be as good as an international competition? You know what I mean?
An international competition with such bad blood, right?
Exactly.
Like it's different because like in NBA, like the Olympics just happened, right? And they had obviously Team USA played Team Canada, they played France, they played a variety of teams.
And over team fucking whatever random European team Joker plays for.
Yeah, Serbia or whatever. But they never got chippy, and there's not deep. I don't know. It's not as deep seated bad blood.
Yeah.
In those sports as much as hockey. Yeah, in general there is between, teams, but I feel like hockey, it's way, way, way more deep-seated bad blood between Team USA and Team Canada.
So when you really think about it, it's because these players, when they're kids, when they're in, I don't know the name of the leagues, but in their little kid leagues, and all these kids that are growing up in like Boston, Minnesota, places close to the border. Think of it as being like a 12-year-old American kid, and you're like, oh, we're playing the Canadians this weekend, and you go up, and these kids are fucking sneering at you, and they're looking down on you, and they're treating you like you're garbage. And then likewise, when you're a Canadian, you're like, oh, who are we playing this week? Oh, the Yanks are coming up. These fucking invaders are coming over our border to play our game. It's just a natural rivalry, right?
Right, yeah, because you're right, because at least with basketball, it's all self-contained into your region or your the United States as a whole. Football, you just don't see it. Soccer isn't big enough to have that rivalry in North America. Outside of Mexico, obviously is huge, but Canada and U.S., it's not.
But even then, it's like this rivalry bleeds into the regular NHL, because think of the whole Stanley Cup bullshit. How we complain every time, a Canadian team is in the playoffs. Well, now every Canadian reporter, every Canadian on Twitter is going to fucking unify behind that team because they are desperate to have the cup come back home. Yeah.
And I think this whole thing is
all boiled over here.
Is hockey is Canada's sport, right? That's their thing. Because basketball, American. Football, American. Soccer, not so much American. Obviously, U.S. sucks, but Canada's not nearly as good as any other country, right? They can't claim that. The one thing that Canada has is hockey. But, like you said, Canada hasn't won a cup. A Canadian team hasn't won a cup in 30-plus years. And they'll use the argument of, well, on those American teams, most of those players are Canadian. I'm like, well, yeah, dumb fuck, because ipso facto, there's a lot more Canadians in the fucking league than there are Americans, Finnish, Swedish, in any other country. Like,
and guess what?
Shut the fuck up.
The goddamn Jets are getting anywhere because they have fucking Connor Hellebuyck and Kyle Connor.
Yeah, exactly. Like, give me a fucking break. Like
the Flames were only relevant for a minute because of Johnny Gaudreau and fucking Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah. And Ottawa's only good because of fucking Brady Tkachuk and Jake Sanderson.
Yeah,
and Linus Ullmark.
Yeah, it goes both ways, fuckers.
Yeah, like
the point being that there is this tension because in Canada, hockey is everything. It is intensely loved. And I think it was Sean McIndoe on The Athletic that said this. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone listening. But he basically said, and I thought he phrased it well, he's like, well, because, for so long, hockey was the sport in Canada. He's like, in Canada, you're all thinking, how are more people not into this? Like, this is so good. Like, how is there not a bigger audience for this?
Yeah.
Well, now USA is getting into it.
Yeah.
And by sheer demographics alone, we're catching up quickly.
Very much.
And I think Canada was happy to say, maybe it was Jeff Merrick that said this actually, but Canada was always happy to be like, well, we're glad you're getting into it, but only if you remember that we're better than you, We're still the big brother. We're happy that you're getting into it, but you're the little brother, we're the big brother.
Yeah.
And now, through sheer population growth, we're drawing on more talent, we're drawing on more players, and suddenly we're building these deep teams that can challenge Canada. And yeah, I know we lost the championship game, but let's be real. It was 2 games and we split it, and one of them ended in overtime.
Yeah, it's as close as you can get it. And then I think it's also like really weighing on, Hockey Canada and the country as a whole, sports and sports fans as a whole. It's because 2 World Juniors in a row, Canada hasn't done shit.
Yeah,
Canada got fucking knocked out pretty early.
Yeah, let's not forget that. Yeah, this 4 Nations is awesome, but these are all like late 20s and 30-something-year-old vets.
They're
this is the last hurrah of fucking Hockey Canada.
Yeah, there is a group of fucking killers from team that are USA Team USA that are coming up into the ranks that will be playing for hockey for a long, long time. And you could say, well, we still have Macklin Celebrini, we still have Connor Bedard and this. I'm like, well, dude, there's the Russians have Matvei Michkov and Ivan Demidov and the Germans are coming up pretty well.
What's really funny is Montreal fans will not shut the fuck up about Wayne Hudson all year.
He's American as shit.
But guess what?
That boy,
red, white, and blue, baby.
You know who else is American on that team? Cole Caulfield.
Yep.
A lot of Americans on Canadian teams, and
there were a lot of Americans that were left off this 4 Nations team. Those 2 fucking
Jason Robertson,
Clayton
Keller,
Tage Thompson,
John Carlson. I know he's older.
What I'm getting at is,
there's a lot of young
when the Olympics roll around again. Yeah, we lost this, but I think we have more options to retool our roster than Canada does.
Yeah, and then what happens in the Olympics in 4 years after that, right? In 2030, you're talking about guys like Ryan Leonard and Lane and Cole Hudson.
Yeah, not even that. Like the World Cup, because they're bringing the World Cup back.
Yeah, you're talking about
2028 first iteration of the World Trevor
Connolly coming up. There's a lot of youth and coming into the American. Obviously there's Canada, but I think the problem with Hockey Canada is that the sole focus on developing you to play top level has not gone as far as it used to because of the controversies and the investigations and the shit that's happened.
Like you said, the pure monetary cost.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this to be a dick, but like the Canadian dollar is really suffering compared to the American dollar.
Yeah.
And like how at a certain point you look at the population of Canada and you're like,
how many more hockey players can you produce?
Exactly. And like, it's like, I get it. Hockey's your life. But when you look at America and how big the population here is like, well, if we really only need 5% or 10% to care enough to invest,
There's a lot bigger number of a 5% in the United States than there is in Canada.
Yeah. And it's like all these, when you see viewership numbers, it's like, oh, well, Game 7, fucking over half of Canada's population watched it, and about 2% of America's population watched it.
And it was the same, if not more, of America's population. And then, but you're also looking at, speaking on development, you're already seeing things getting passed, right? Like, I know they're like, well, Binnington only allowed 2 goals and Hellebuck allowed 3. Go fuck yourself. Connor Hellebuck was the best goaltender in that entire tournament. Yeah. Connor Hellebuck's been the best goaltender in the league for the last fucking 5 years, without a question. Jake Ottinger's a great goaltender. Jeremy Swayman, we'll see about that. But goaltenders, they've already been passed, right? Thatcher Demko, he's got a down year. He's got injured.
I was gonna say, I know Canadians were pretending that he was Canadian. Joey Decord is fucking American.
Is American.
Joey Decord is American.
Yeah, he's got dual citizenship. So Joey Decord, and there's so many U.S. goaltenders, and Logan Thompson's having a good year, but that's like not like in the past of like the crazy dependable Canadian goaltenders, right? So that started to pass up, and then I would argue USA defense is starting to get very, very, very close to Team Canada defense, right? Like Cale Makar is obviously great, and Shea Theodore is great, but you've got Quinn Hughes and Luke Hughes and Jake Sanderson. He's only 22. Mm-hmm. You've got Brock Faber.
We were all laughing about Jake Sanderson. You're like, oh, let's hope that he fucking breaks his leg so Quinn Hughes can come in.
He played really well.
He scored a goal. Yeah. He scored a goal.
And we're not talking about, because obviously we're on hockey, on Four Nations. Probably, it doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but probably the best player of this entire tournament that wasn't scoring points, Jacob Slavin.
Oh, yeah. I think there needs to be a serious talk about how the fact that he's like probably the best defenseman in the league.
Oh, I mean, like far.
He doesn't produce points, but like he is so fucking good defensively. And call me old fashioned, I want my defenseman to defend.
Yeah, he was insane this tournament. They paired him with Faber, and Faber is young and can move the puck, but Faber's been really good at just defense.
Well, those two led Team USA in ice time.
Yeah,
like it was insane.
Yeah,
and also let's not forget our Vegas boy, Jack Eichel.
Jack Eichel
was being used on every defensive faceoff. Yeah,
the only reason he wasn't out in that overtime sequence is that Team USA iced the puck, because you sure as shit know if Team USA did not ice the puck, that next line over was going to be Eichel, Kachuk, and somebody else would have been out there with them.
But you know for a fact that Matthews fucking got stuck in the icing. Canada put McDavid over the boards. Mm-hmm. Is all she wrote.
That's all she wrote. And it happens.
After a whole fucking game of Eichel fucking just shutting McDavid down.
Yep. And, everybody wonders, like, oh, well, if Edmonton and Vegas meets in the playoffs, it's going to be Edmonton this time, right?
No.
Nope. Jack Eichel, much like William Karlsson, lives in Connor McDavid's nightmares.
Oh, yeah. That's the key.
Yeah.
I really hope that, if anything, this tournament really put the mainstream hockey press under the idea of like, oh shit, Jack Eichel is actually one of the best defensive forwards in the league.
It didn't. You want to know why? Because no one's talking about Jack Eichel after this tournament.
Yeah.
They only talked about, of course, it's the thing to talk about is McDavid's goal and whatever. But nobody's actually talking.
Crosby still got it, man.
Yeah, nobody's talking about after this tournament of
Marner was actually not complete dog shit in an elimination game.
One elimination game. You're not talking about
Matthews choked, man.
Yeah, they're not talking about the afterwards, right?
It's not that Eichel was good; it's that Matthews choked, because it all has to be about Matthews, because Matthews plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, obviously the headlines are gonna be Canada wins. This breakdown, this line broke down, whatever. Shit happens, right? What's not coming out of it is what should be coming out of it is some of the praise of some of this team. I've said this Brandon Hagel quote so many times because it cracks me up, and this is why I think he's gonna be fucking in Tampa Bay for his entire career. This man's insane. He's like, oh yeah, the night before, everybody's saying this is just a glorified All-Star game. This, and this. He's like, I don't know what they're talking about, because I was laying in my bed and I couldn't sleep. I was ready to run my head through a fucking wall. Yeah. I was like, fuck yeah.
Well, my favorite image of this game, this experience, was from the first game of USA Canada, where someone got a picture of Brandon Hagel after the fight where he was just yelling, helmet off, yelling, fucking like just the look on his face. I was like, that is immediately iconic.
Yeah,
immediately.
That's an iconic image for Canadian hockey. But like again, like you're not talking about some of these extra pieces, like you said, Jack Eichel, how good he was.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Slavin gets talked about for 5 minutes back into the bottom of the pool.
Yeah,
but he was elite this entire tournament. How good Philip Gustafson was in that one game, and then how good Urson was against Team USA.
Yeah, he had a great
game.
That was the first time in his career that I was like, wow, this kid actually might have it.
And then how good I
get it now.
Some of those Finnish defensemen actually played.
Yeah.
Like Heinrich Jokiharju and Montempalo were pretty fucking good, and they're depth guys that are coming in.
The situation that they were thrust into
was very difficult.
I don't know what their final stat lines were, but the fact that they did it at all, I was impressed.
Yeah, and then Kevin Lankinen having a half decent tournament and rolling himself into a contract extension.
Yeah.
Like, and speaking of Vancouver Canucks, and also how dog shit Elias Pettersson was in the tournament, he was also dog shit tonight. We're recording this after the Vancouver Golden Knights game tonight, and Golden Knights won.
Yeah,
3-1. And you said it earlier, it's been a big break, but that's a 3-game winning streak, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think we won our last two going into the break, took the break, and then we won this one.
Usually the game coming out of the break is pretty sloppy, and it was pretty sloppy to start the game.
It was, but not nearly as much as I thought it was going to be.
Our defensive structure was solid.
And, I think before the game, they talked to Stone about it, and he said, like, well, from my perspective, I'm in game shape right now. I've been playing games this whole time.
That's the thing that I think is I'm happy with is like
he's like I'm sharp and I'm ready to go.
Some of these guys that we have coming back in our team, I think, are in a better spot than others, right? Because Stone's coming back, he just fucking played with Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, now
as a centerman.
Now he gets to play with Brett Howden.
But he is like he's ready. He's moving. He feels a little faster. Jack Eichel was playing with the Kachucks, was playing with Austin Matthews, was playing Jack Hughes. And, yeah, obviously we love Ivan Barbashev. He scored tonight, finally, thank God. And
God, we needed that.
We love Victor Olofsson. And, but, you feel that, right? Hannafin feels the, I had good games on defense. Hill didn't play at all, but he was also in practice getting fucking railroaded by the best players in the world, so he's feeling it, and he had a great. All the guys that came back from the tournament had a pretty goddamn good game.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jack Eichel, I don't think he scored tonight, or he didn't have an assist. I don't think he had a point. I don't know if he had a point on the Barbashev goal.
He looked good.
He looked good.
He looked himself.
Yeah, Stowe and I may have had a point on the Sod goal. But he looked great. Hannafin looked pretty good. Hill looked amazing.
Hill looked fantastic.
Hill was fantastic.
And I said this when we were watching it. I'm like, well, he was in that middle ground of, he was practicing with all these great players. He was in this intense environment. He also didn't play a game. So it's like he's still
fresh.
He's mentally all hyped up and ready to go, but physically he's still rested.
Yeah. No, and they all looked really, really good, and they played very well. I mean, obviously Vancouver scored first. It was a weird rebound pass across the ice, weird mismark on the play, and just he was standing back there ready to bury it. But then from there, it's just Vegas just continued to strangle.
Yeah, I mean, you look at all the stats and all the numbers, Vegas dominated this game.
Yeah.
They scored first, and it wasn't like a blowout by any means, but it ended the way it should have ended.
Yeah, it was 3-1 with an empty net from Hurdle, and then Barbashev, like we said, finally scored. Sod had a good goal. You weren't watching it, but just a little passing, and then I don't know if it was Stone or somebody shot it in, and it's bounced off the boards weird and straight to Sod. Yeah. And Sod's like, oh, wide open, and then popped it straight in. And Sod has been looking really good on this team.
He has.
He's looked great. It's a great pickup for us. Pearson was back. Every line looked good. I think. And a big point from tonight is that Lavoie was on the second line with Hurdle and Dory. I know that line did not score, but Dorofiev was all over the entire ice. He was all over the offensive zone.
Oh yeah, he had we saw that graph. He had 5 or 6 shots.
He had 9 attempts, but 5 shots on goal.
Yeah, that's crazy.
12 minutes of ice time going into the third. Lavoie looked good with that line. Hurdle was good. It's just Dory didn't finish, but they're generating a shit ton of chances every time they enter the zone, and I think Lavoie now feels great that he's like, man, I found a spot, and they're playing me up high in the lineup. Well, and he looks good doing it.
Well, during the Four Nations break, we saw him play with Henderson.
Yeah, we caught a couple Henderson games.
He scored on his old team.
Yeah,
which was great.
He looked. I said this earlier. Like, you can tell the guys that got some NHL ice time, they just look faster and look more ready to play. Like when Ronberg is with the NHL with the team for an extended period of time, he goes back down to the A. He's just faster than everybody else. Yeah, and Lavoie was the same way. He just looked better than anybody else on the ice.
He was just controlling shit.
Yeah,
and then I saw a post today. I guess he got a call from Tim Spence, the player development guy, and he was like, "Hey, you're playing tonight in Vegas, so get ready." And he was like, "Oh, fuck yeah." And
you want kids like that. You want guys like that. You want them to be ready to go. And speaking in opposites, Holt actually was in Henderson. He played 2 games in Milwaukee.
I know he scored in the first one. I don't know if he did in the second one.
I don't think he scored tonight. He may have had an assist. I don't know. But that just tells me that this is over.
Yeah, it's over. I feel like he'll definitely be gone, but I don't have faith that he will be valuable as a trade piece. I think he'll just be he'll be the sweetener that you get for someone to retain. Yeah, 50%. They'll make the main deal, and then the other team will be like, I don't know. They're like, well, we'll give you Holtz, and they're like, okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like you send a second round pick and some prospect or something to Seattle for McCann, and then they retain 50%, and then the other 25 you give Holtz to fucking Chicago or some shit like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's sad. I had a lot of hopes for him. I was hoping he'd be like, hey, I'm the new Marchessault. Yeah. All I needed was a good team around me. And by all means, he has a lot of center depth he can play with. He just hasn't clicked. Exactly. And I still maintain that, because I've seen a lot of people already phrasing it as like, oh my God, well, they gave up Cotter, and Cotter had, he scored all these goals in New Jersey. Well, to start the season. He scored all those goals in the first 2 weeks, and he's been ice cold since then. Yeah, he's been actually pretty kind of bad. And I like Cotter. I'm a fan of his game. Very much so. But that being said, let's be real. It's not like we gave up a lot to get Holtz. To me, that was a worthwhile risk. You would take that risk 9 times out of 10. It just didn't happen to work out. Yeah, you brought up a good point the other night. Was you get rid of Cotter, but you replace him with full time with a guy like Dorofiev that's scoring. Yeah, that was obviously Dorofiev was gonna be in the lineup, but you're replacing now that same kind of idea that Dorofiev, he's a team. I think he's a team leader in goals right now, and then you're replacing that, and you just go get Pearson for cheaper money and more experience, and he's doing the same thing, right? And it sucks to see Cotter go, but I don't think you can call that a win or a loss. I feel like at this point it's just kind of draw. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, you make that deal 9 times out of 10. Oh yeah, it was worth the risk, especially when it didn't work out. On the table, you have it is what it is. A high end, forward prospect that's got a lot of potential, and then a high end goaltender prospect. That's something that doesn't break the bank. Yeah, it wasn't crazy. And then speaking on that, I know we're 2 weeks out, but the trade deadline's coming fast, and obviously, we're linked to a lot of teams, but Kelly McCrimmon had his interview this week and came out and said, we're not making any big moves. Don't expect us to do crazy, any crazy trades.
what do you take from that? You think we're just going to do typical Golden Knights, just value hunts?
Well, I think we both kind of agreed that logically that's what would happen. That being said, I think he's said that every single year. And then, some of those years he obviously came out and was like, ah, ha, ha, fuck you. We got all these crazy pieces. That being said, I think this year it will be true. I don't think we're big game hunting. I think we're going to... I think we'll get some depth pieces. We'll shore things up and then roll the dice and hope for the best. But I think the true moves to be made will be this summer in free agency with all the nice shiny cap room we'll be getting.
Yeah, because we won't have to extend Jack until the next season. Mm-hmm. And then obviously we're going to have to figure out what we're doing with goaltending. I think
that's the big one. I don't know if there's any goalie free agents, but
that are worth it. That's outside of Hill, right?
Yeah, like I personally think we extend Hill. I think it'll be a cheap deal because his season's been up and down.
Mm-hmm. What happens though if he wins another cup?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Well, coming off of like a just a 900 regular season, but what happens if he?
I don't mean this as a cop-out because I think this is exactly what Kelly McCrimmon would say. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
That's right. Yeah. As of right now, yes.
We'll cross that bridge
as of right now, I don't think
if he's the too much. If he's the starter in the playoffs and he looked the way he did the first time, and even last year when he played in the playoffs, he looked great. At that point, I would be on board to say, like, well, just give him a good deal because if he's a proven playoff performer, let's be real. That's what matters,
Exactly.
I don't care if he has random cold stretches in the regular season.
Yeah.
If he can turn it on for the playoffs, like that's what you need.
Right. I agree. And I mean, like you said, I think we'll go after like mid-level guys, like the guys in Seattle and depth players versus like what you sent me earlier. Apparently, everybody that's a contender is now linked to Mikko Rantanen just because,
quote unquote, linked. I'm becoming increasingly convinced that if one or two people that have a podcast say like, "Oh, well, I don't know, maybe Vegas would like him," you never know. Everyone else takes that like, "Oh my God, Mikko Rantanen has been linked to Vegas." Oh my God. No, he has not been linked to Vegas.
I don't think he's been linked to anybody because I don't think
so either.
Carolina is actively shopping him.
Not exactly. I think the only official link that happened was that I think today Carolina sent him their first offer for an extension. Yeah, that's the only link I see. Other than that, it's just Friedman or Pagnotta. Not even saying that they heard this or that they think this is happening. Guys, you have to listen to the actual podcast. Don't just look at the headline, because 9 times out of 10 they're just going like, "Oh yeah, I don't know, maybe Vegas does it." They like to. They're speaking in generalities, but people take it as fucking God's spoken truth. That, oh my God, they're talking. This is going to happen. No, they're not talking. It's not going to happen.
No.
It's just what you and me do. We're just saying like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe fucking Everly would be good."
Yeah.
Then 10 seconds later, someone tweets out, "Oh my God, Everly's been linked to the Golden Knights." Give me a break.
Exactly. Like, I don't think Mikko Rantanen's going anywhere.
Yeah, me neither.
Just like I don't think Sidney Crosby's ever going to go anywhere.
Nope, he'll retire a Penguin.
He's going to be a Penguin forever because he's a masochist and he's going to only care about winning in international tournaments.
He chose to go down with the ship, and that's admirable.
I mean, they won 3-2 in overtime in the Four Nations tournament. Then they turn around and the Penguins lose to the Capitals 8-3 today.
Snap back to reality.
And then the biggest thing for us is the Oilers lost 6-3 to the Flyers, so we're in first place in the Pacific right now, by only by 2 points. But
we'll take it.
We'll take it. And if we can keep pace with them, I'll take it. Be perfectly okay with that.
Hopefully, McJesus busted his load on this Four Nations and is just gonna sleepwalk through the rest of the season.
It's quite possible. I mean, I don't think he will, but. They brought up Savoy, I think, today for this game. He had like an assist. But again, the kid's only like 21, 20 years old, and you still have Corey Perry on this team.
Yeah.
You still have Derek Ryan.
So you still have that defense.
Yeah. And
that goalie tandem.
And then again, like they're like, oh well, they can trade for a defenseman. I'm like, for who though? Who's going to be on that defense? That's going to be a big mover, for that ability that's not been traded or it's not already been signed by their team that they have, or who's not worth way too much money. Like, you really think? No, here's the thing. I don't call it a nightmare scenario for us, but this would be more for the Oilers. Like, what happens if Stan Bowman decides, oh yeah, Seth Jones is a really good player. He asked for a trade. I could stomach half of that $9.5 million contract, and they send back Matthew
My
Savoy.
God, that's less than they're paying fucking
Darnell Nurse.
Yeah,
like I could see that shit happening, and just doesn't move the needle, right? And that's what we mean when we come to trades. Like, you don't want to like blow your load too early. You want to be calculated. I think that's something that Kelly McCrimmon's very good at.
Yeah,
he's very calculated at what trades and players he wants on the team.
Well, yeah, because even when he makes these quote unquote big splashes, like Hurdle had like a few more years, like he had term.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't like, oh yeah, let me fucking blow up the fucking farm so we can, have a few rentals or take a bad contract. He's like, no, I envision you as being part of our team for a while.
Yep.
And so, yeah, and then same thing with Hannafin. Like, we had to extend him, but the idea was like, oh yeah, we're going to give up a premium price for a player, but you're not just going to be here for a year or two. We want you to be here for the next, 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, we want you to be a long-term solution on this team.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, to go back to your original question, I know McCrimmon likes to take people by surprise, but I genuinely don't think we'll be big players at the deadline.
Yeah, it'd be like we said. It's gonna be at most, mid-level, depth guys. I think, and then again, that's if depending on what they want to even do, because you said earlier that both Carlson and Schwintz are skating, so that's an extremely good sign, and that helps a lot. And if Carlson's ready to play and he's skating, that means we have no LTIR money, right?
Yep.
So
unless they put Theodore on.
That's very true, and they might, because it all intents and purposes looks like that wrist is broken. And again, if it's the fact that they bring in a couple depth forwards and you can change in some guys some night and move Olofsson down or do whatever you want to do, great. More depth is always better, right? I just don't think we're at a point where we need to blow up a team with send multiple players, send a couple roster players to someplace for a big name, right?
Yeah,
like that's just not necessary.
No,
especially in the next couple of years when you do have big names on free agency that you could go after if you really
and
wanted
when the
to.
cap is going up so much. Like I said, I think all the moves that McCrimmon has made. He extended Hannafin, he extended Theo, extended Howden and Kolesar.
And these contracts are like laid out to where like they're coming off at the right times, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. And you look at them like these are going to be dirt cheap in the year or two. Like,
yep.
The fact that we have Shea Theodore for basically the rest of his career under $8 million, that is fucking insane.
Yeah, and
dude.
then Petrangelo's off the books in 2 years?
Mm-hmm. And even if they do extend him, it'll probably be like
half is what he's getting,
like a 2x3 or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then that McNabb's extended too when you've got
exactly.
Him
They
the rest
extended
of his
McNabb.
career. Like they're planning it very well.
White Cloud's on a long-term contract.
Yeah, and as he gets better, that's going to be valuable, right?
Yeah. The point being that they have a lot of guys locked up for the primes of their careers at a very reasonable cap hit. I don't think they're gonna shoot themselves in the foot this year by chasing someone that they don't really need.
Yeah,
I think
like,
they're gonna say like, "Hey, we have all these guys, we have our cap situation fucking together. the cap's going to jump up like fucking $9 million. Let's just grab someone in free agency if we want to.
Yeah, what happens if Mikko Rantanen doesn't resign, right, with Carolina?
Yeah.
I know it's going to be hard for us to bid for him, but you don't think Mikko Rantanen would be like, I would love to go play in Vegas and play with Jack Eichel and, these guys? Or like, in a year or two, what happens if Kaprizov doesn't want to resign in Minnesota?
Yeah. What if Marner doesn't want to resign?
Yeah.
What? Not even these big names. What if just like, one scoring winger that's been on a second or third line for the last few years? I don't have the list in front of me, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not.
Alex Tuck comes off the books for Buffalo in a couple of years.
Yeah, like exactly. Like, you look at our core right now, the fact that it's almost March and we're first in the Pacific. It's not going to take a lot to push it over the edge,
Right.
You really only need like one or two more guys, and I don't know. We're in a good place.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that we were worried, obviously, coming out of January, as we should have been, but the fact that we're able to maintain first in the Pacific with a goaltender that's about 900, and just playing kind of like just enough to where we are, and we're still first in the Pacific, it's kind of like a good tell of how good this team can be when it's maybe some improvements or maybe complete and going as fast as they can and going completely to the game plan. Right. We have the best record in the league against our own division. Our record against the West is also insane. So it's not like we're strangers to playing the teams that we're going to be playing in the playoffs. We know these teams very well, and it's like you said, we're in a good spot, and it's a team that's like you feel like it's just doing enough to be in that spot, and the potential of the team that's on there right now could be a team that could win a President's Trophy or just do something insane, but there's like, no, we'll just play, we'll be good enough to be first in our division, and then playoffs come and we'll skate through that, we'll be okay. Which I think is fine, and we say like, oh, do we need anything? I think every team could use an extra forward. Every team could use an extra defenseman. It's not a need. It's yes, you want that body. Do I want Raphael Lavoie playing second line winger? No. Do I think it's okay for now? Absolutely.
Yep.
Like, I'm not mad at it because he's got a ton of potential. He looks good. Would I love to have a guy like Jared McCann or Brandon? Maybe not Brandon Tannen, but Jared McCann and Jordan Eberle or Alex Tuck or any any winger in the top six to replace him? Absolutely, but that's going to be up to what Kelly McCrimmon and the front office think they can get for what they have. And again, like you said, we're in a good spot. You could use one or two guys. It doesn't need to be anything crazy.
Yep, agreed, 100%.
I also see that you're about to ready to fall asleep on the floor.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's wrap this up.
Until next time, we'll have a couple games to talk about. So we can play the Kings on Monday, Blackhawks on Thursday, and then Sunday would be another game. But we only have a couple games this week, so talk to you next week. But until then, stay gold.
Stay gold, and one day the bird will be freed again.
Maybe in 2026.
Let's count on it.